I just keep picturing who would want to pick up a heavy hatchet and raise it up and crack it into somebody's head 4 times.
I know.
Who wants to do that to a lady lying defenseless asleep on her own couch? That's pretty sick. We are headed to the town of Bellevue in Sandusky County, Ohio, where on January the 24th, 1988, Richard Cordell woke up to a very bloody scene. His wife, Isabel, was lying dead on the couch with 4 hatchet blows to her head.
What's wrong, sir? There's a big hole in my wife's head. Blood all over the place.
Strangely, neither Richard nor 3 of their children who were sleeping in the house that night heard anything.
I promise, I don't know nothing.
Even stranger, when police arrived at the scene that night, they discovered what they assumed to be the murder weapon placed against a tree in the front yard.
Shown here is the apparent weapon.
We were contacted by Detective Captain Sean O'Connell to help on this case. There have been a lot of suspects, including a mentally challenged man who was heard around town admitting that he was the one that killed Isabel.
How dare you ever say that?
And another man who was convicted of molesting one of the sons who was asleep in the house that night.
Do you know who killed Isabel Cordell?
No, sir.
Kelly and I are up to speed on the case history, but there's still a lot more to learn. We're going to be examining all the evidence, including doing some DNA for the first time on some of this evidence.
I like that blood drop in the sink.
As it makes no sense.
This case hasn't really been touched in 25 years, but the new sheriff and his team really want to make some headway on this case. We've called in Los Angeles PD homicide detective Orlando Martinez. With his help, our goal is to cut down on the long list of suspects and leave them with a clearer focus on who to look at.
It has been 16 years and still no answers.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims.
Hey, how are you?
Morning!
How you doing?
Yolanda McClary.
Sheriff Kyle Overmeyer.
Nice
Pleasure.
to meet you.
I've been the sheriff of Sandusky County since 2008. When I took over as sheriff, one of the things on my bucket list was to solve this case. And now, with the resources and the knowledge of Kelly and Yolanda, you get that gut feeling, we're going to solve a crime. Hi. Orlando Martinez, Sheriff Kyle Overmeyer. Pleasure to meet you.
Sheriff Sean O'Connell. Nice to meet you. When you lack the resources, whether it be manpower or money to have the evidence tested the way it needs to be tested, you reach out for those who are available to help you. Pride's not going to step in the way. We'll do whatever it takes to figure out who murdered Isabel.
Okay, Sean, why don't you start off by telling us about our victim? What happened?
Back on January 24th of 1988, Richard Cordell Sr. had woke up and found his wife, 49-year-old Isabel Cordell, deceased on the couch.
What happened, sir? I don't know. I just woke up.
It appeared as though she had been bludgeoned to death.
It's not a burglary.
Right.
No.
It's not. Whoever committed this murder didn't put a lot of planning into it, from what I can gather. There's blood spatter, there's blood droplets leaving from the crime scene throughout the home. It looks like maybe at one point somebody had gone to the sink to maybe wash off the blade, wash off their hands. And then what gets me is they walk outside and they just place the axe by a tree.
I've never been on a crime scene where a weapon was left like that. So at this stage, it's kind of more important for me to figure out why it was left like that and who would leave it like that. Maybe we can get some DNA results that will hopefully tell us something.
Okay, so starting with the first suspect.
John Onus made statements to a couple different people at one time during the course of the investigation that he had committed the murder.
What would be his reason? Would it be just because he's playing crazy?
You know, I think a lot of people want to take pride that they just did something that's just been, you know, in the newspapers and it's horrific.
A lot of times in small town cold cases, rumors get spread around, and it's our job to look into those rumors and either substantiate them or discount them. Folks claim that John admitted killing Isabel, but in his statements to the police, he denied that. Well, whatever the situation, we need to either know for sure or clear him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, Richard Cordell Sr. What do y'all want to put first under Richard Sr.?
Heavy drinker.
How much did you drink?
I drank 12 beers.
Having an affair.
Isabel knew of it.
Discussing divorce?
It was going to cost him money to divorce her, which was going to be an issue for him.
There was no sign of any forced entry.
Oh, that's a big one. No forced entry. One of the things that the police focused on was the fact that there was no break-in, which made them believe that Richard Cordell was possibly the suspect. But that also is complicated because there was a 14-year-old son who was also in the house that night. Richie Jr. Talk about why y'all think we need to put him up here.
If this was an unknown person or just someone random, they would have taken a hatchet with them. A child would say, what do I do with this? And to a child, maybe just walking it outside and just getting it out of the house is logic enough. And honestly, he's got emotional issues going on.
He went to therapy.
We know that Richard Cordell Jr. was molested as a child, but the question is, was Richard Jr. so upset with his mother for making that public that he wanted to get back at her? Now we have Mark Carter. He's the one who was convicted of molesting Richard Cordell Jr., Isabel and Richard Sr.'s son. Months before the murder, Isabel had her neighbor Mark Carter arrested for molesting Richard Jr., but he took a plea bargain and he was in custody at the time the murder happened.
Mark Carter's in prison back in January of '88.
Right, so he wouldn't be able to do it.
Who's to say that Mark didn't make arrangements from within the prison to have someone take care of this?
We've got our work cut out for us in this case, because who would think that a mother, a little town like this, could truly have so many viable suspects? Each one of those suspects had the motive and the means to kill Isabel. So we're going to need to re-interview witnesses, determine whether or not the crime scene can tell us anything, and then see if DNA comes back on any of our evidence that tells us anything, particularly that blood drop that was in the sink. All right, guys. Thank you. So we're going to go meet Sherry Henry, who's Isabel's daughter, who was grown back then. And let's hope that maybe over the years she was a nosy daughter.
Yeah.
And asked Richard a lot of questions about that morning and that night. Sherry is Isabel's daughter from a previous marriage, and she's the one who took in the children after Isabel was murdered.
Yolanda McClary.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
It's been 25 years since my mom's been killed, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her. I mean, I can't even express how badly she's missed.
Tell us some good stories about your mom.
She loved kids. I mean, loved kids. She was my babysitter for my 2 children.
Okay.
She was funny. We laughed and laughed and laughed. She loved my husband, but they kind of had like a love-hate relationship. She would always come for coffee in the morning, and she would slam the door open and it would hit the wall, and he would be upstairs and he'd say, "Good morning, Isabel," and she's like, "Shut up," you know, and she would walk over.
Isabel sounds like a very spunky lady, and Sherry is obviously very proud of her mom. When is it you found out that your mom was murdered?
Richard called my house. I think maybe even before he called the fire department. He was very frantic, screaming in the phone.
Like, what'd he say?
That I needed to get there. So I thought, something's wrong with my mom. And so I immediately grabbed my clothes and got in my car and flew out there.
So describe Richard to us, Richard Sr. What's he like?
My mom knew he was fooling around. I mean, I knew he was fooling around. She hated him. She was ready for a divorce.
What would that have done to Richard if she had just left with the kids?
It would have cost him a lot of money. She would have received alimony. I'm the only one in the family that feels that Richard Sr. had an involvement.
You're the only one?
I'm the only one.
Wow. What about the idea or the thought that little Richie was the one who did this?
I don't see that.
Okay.
I don't see that at all. Knowing his weak personality, he would have cracked by now.
If it turns out that Richard Sr. is who killed your mom, what's that going to do to your family?
It's going to make me the bad guy. The whole family's going to be destroyed. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, I think it will be harder if it's Richard, because I do love him. I mean, he was my dad, you know. But I have to push that aside because my mom deserves justice. So
we're hoping we can help.
I have great faith in Kelly and Yolanda. I'm very grateful for them. And I feel like they're going to do everything humanly possible to get a resolution to this, and that's all I want.
We need to learn more about our suspect, John Onest, so we have Sean and Orlando out there canvassing the neighborhood.
We are investigating a cold case homicide from 1988. Isabel Cordell.
I remember it, yeah.
There was a lot of talk during all that time that maybe John Onest had something to do with it.
Yeah, he used to say he did.
He would walk the street saying he's a hatchet man, and people would yell out the windows that he's a murderer and this and that. I mean, he was really screwed up. He still is.
He was singing the song.
He made up a song. I couldn't tell you how it went.
It went now, but he has songs.
You didn't know whether to take him serious or not, you know.
John Onis, that's your son, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Do you ever remember your son John saying, hey, look, I did it? Or
No.
do you ever remember John referring to himself as the Hatchet Man?
No.
Has he ever been known to be violent?
With his mental problems,
Sure.
you know how it gets violent.
So is it fair to say if he's not on his medication, he's violent? If he's on his medication, he's good to go? He's all right?
More or less, yeah.
Did he ever talk about hurting anybody or committing any crimes?
I've heard from rumors.
Right.
He's the one that killed the Cordell lady,
Okay.
you know.
Do you know who specifically you heard that from?
Oh, geez. I've just heard her from town.
Okay.
You know, that's only...
It's been the whole day preparing to interview John Onis.
So nothing earth-shattering, but we're slowly chipping away at it.
So we're on our way to go see Onis, and I'm hoping John has been taking his meds so that we can just have a nice, calm conversation.
John?
Yeah.
Hey, Sean O'Connell, how you doing?
Very good.
Yeah, I went to the sheriff's office. You got a couple minutes?
I'm too tired.
Hey, John, people seem to think that maybe you had something to do with the Isabel Cordell murder. John, did you commit a murder back in 1988?
I want to be left alone. I didn't do nothing wrong. That was so long ago, it's pathetic.
We are investigating the 1988 murder of Isabel Cordell, but we've hit a major roadblock. Our suspect, John Onist, who used to be called the Hatchet Man, won't talk to us, so we tried to track down the last of his friends to see if he ever said anything to them.
So Fred, we're opening up the case again. There's some questions that we'd like to ask about John, maybe some of the rumors that were going around.
Well, I can tell you exactly how that started. He was just making everybody laugh and shit and said something like, yeah, they ain't gonna catch me or something like that. But I'm telling you, he wouldn't harm a cat.
Fred said that John Onis was a big joker and that he joked about John being responsible, and John said, yeah, I did it. Somebody overheard them, and that's where this rumor started.
My brother was like screwing with him, saying, yeah, I know you done it, Oni. At the time, he was joking around about it. There was a off-duty state highway patrolman there, so that's where it all came about and started right there.
Did Tim Black seem credible?
Especially with the consistency of the two stories. We have nothing to show that any of these rumors are accurate.
It's not just that, y'all cleared him up. You explained where they came from. Think about it. He had no reason to want to kill Isabel. There was nothing going on between them. He made life a lot harder for himself with all the things that he went around saying, but we're all sure that he is not involved. Way to go, guys. Man, y'all have explained the whole rumor, so when people say it's John Onist, you can tell them, no, we know where that got started.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
good.
comfortable about that.
At this point in the investigation, we have a few suspects left. First, we are going to start focusing on Richard Cordell Sr. This one right here on the right is his with the gray paint, so they're both home.
Hey, Richard, do you have a couple of minutes?
The blinds open and the window went up.
I'd like to have the opportunity to kind of talk. Would you mind just coming down to the police department?
Can I get a cup of coffee?
Oh, here he comes.
Let me hold that for you.
It's a nice neighborhood.
I don't come downtown much.
No? Well, wait till you see the police department. That's impressive.
I think it's suspicious that Richard Cordell has never bothered to call and check up on the status of his wife's case in 25 years.
Okay.
According to the police, he's never contacted them about anything since the day of the murder.
I need a car to 1350 West Main Street. It's emergency.
What's wrong, sir?
There's a big hole in my wife's head.
What happened, sir?
Blood all over the place. I don't know. I just woke up. I was supposed to go to work.
Hang on, sir. Hang on the phone. Sir? Sir?
I want to go back even a little bit further before January 24th, 1988. You guys have a good relationship?
Well, it wasn't perfect by any means. She didn't have any trouble voicing her opinion on any subject.
Did that bother you?
No.
Did she ever suspect an affair?
Yes, but it wasn't a fair, go out and get drunk and have sex. And
Okay. How many times do you think that happened?
probably 6 or 8, and probably not even going home, going to the car.
Okay. Is it a relationship you wanted to get out of?
I never thought about it, really.
Richard is really downplaying how bad the marriage was, but by all accounts, they fought all the time. There were all kinds of issues. Alcohol, money. She was even planning to divorce him, which would have cost him a lot of money in child support.
4 months after Isabel passed away, you start seeing Sue. And you guys dated for how long before you got married?
Got married in August of '88.
Why so soon?
I thought life was short, and I loved her so.
You guys been married ever since?
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the part of the file that I read, I thought that you had said that you were seeing Sue before Isabel was murdered.
No, definitely not.
So let's talk about January 24th of '88.
I was in bed.
Then what happens?
Wake up the next morning, Isabel's on the couch. Originally, I thought something was spilled all over the couch. Who would think the wife's dead on the couch? I thought she'd been shot.
Think maybe a motive was somebody to come in and commit a robbery. What are your thoughts?
Something to do with Carter?
Mark Carter?
Yep.
Why do you think
He raped
that?
my son.
What kind of a kid was Richie? Were you guys close?
Yeah, I'd say we were close.
Was he closer to his mom than to you?
I don't know.
Do you know who killed Isabel?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Did Richie tell you he killed?
No.
I think we know why you're so sure Richie didn't kill her.
Why?
Because you did.
I didn't kill her. I didn't kill my wife. Do you know how it is to feel like the suspect when you didn't do nothing?
The only thing that would be worse is feeling like the son of a bitch that killed my wife is getting away with it. And I think I'd put my pride aside to find out who killed my wife.
You know, and you told me you think it's Richie, now you think it's me.
I think it's somebody inside the house is what I think.
You're wrong.
It's the only
100% wrong.
It's the only thing that makes any sense.
I think it was either you or Richie.
Murder, does that always make sense?
Nope.
Why would somebody kill somebody?
Because your world is falling apart, because your credit is crazy, you can't pay your bills, your house was falling apart, your child had been molested, she wanted a divorce, but she didn't really want to get one, you loved somebody else, you were running around with other women.
Love
Lots of
somebody else.
reasons.
I never loved nobody else.
You love Sue.
After Isabel died, I told you I didn't even know Sue.
Other
I knew
people
her
say
before
y'all
this.
did.
Well, it's a lie.
Hey.
Well, I'm telling you the truth. I took a lie detector test. I'll take another one. You can put me under hypnotism, sodium pentothal, anything you want. I had nothing to do with Isabel's murder. I don't want to put up with this crap.
In his interview, Richard not only deflected attention away from Richie Jr., but he directed us directly toward Mark Carter.
What are your thoughts?
Something to do with Carter?
Mark Carter?
Yep.
So now we're going to go try and talk to Tammy Maines, who was married to Mark Carter at the time.
Tammy? Hi, how are you?
Okay, how are you?
We are looking into the old murder case of Isabel Cordell.
Come up on my
Okay,
porch.
yeah.
Tammy was Mark Carter's wife at the time, and she was also Isabel Cordell's neighbor. She's going to know, in the middle of all that legal drama, how did Mark Carter really feel about Isabel Cordell? Mark did this to Richie, and he's mad at Isabel for putting it on him. Then is Mark the one in the middle of Isabel being murdered?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, the day that happened, I got a phone call from him in prison. He says, aren't the cops down at Isabel's? I says, yeah. How did you know? And Mark goes, I got my ways. She got what she deserved. The more I sat and thought, because I knew he couldn't have done it.
Right.
Because he couldn't have got out.
Right.
And I knew he had a bunch of guys that were up his butt because he was the macho.
Tough ass.
Yeah. And I just kept thinking and thinking and thinking, and then I thought, Greg, when he got out of prison, he stopped at my house. I says, Greg Weller, he was the one that did it for you, wasn't he? And Mark goes, I ain't saying anything. I said, but I'm right. Can't you just at least tell me I'm right? And he wouldn't tell me. But I know that's exactly, I know. Because that kid did anything and everything for Mark, and he had cancer and he was gonna die anyway, and he figured if he got caught, he wouldn't be in prison very long anyways, he'd die.
This is what working a cold case is all about. We've never heard any mention of Greg Weller before. It could just be a rumor, but we need to find out whether or not Greg Weller or any of Mark's friends could have killed Isabel for Mark.
Mark, if you would, have a seat in the red seat.
It's time we talk to Mark himself. He's the man that went to prison for molesting Richie Jr.
I swear to God, I swear on my kids' lives, I did not touch that boy.
When you were arrested, you maintained your innocence all throughout, but didn't you, in fact, plead no contest?
Yes, I did.
Why did you do that?
When it comes to juries and a boy, I know who they're going to believe. They're not going to believe me.
Mark has always claimed he was innocent of the molestation case, but he took a plea deal to save himself a longer sentence. And so now we have to figure out whether or not Mark Carter was mad enough about all of that he was able to orchestrate this kind of a murder with people loyal to him.
Did anybody on your side of the family or even friends show an interest in, you know what, let's go after who we really think did this?
The only one that I can honestly say wanted revenge, that's Greg Weller. He told me that if you go away, he goes, you know, I'm going to make sure something happens to that family. I said, no, Greg, where's that going to get me more time? And that's the last it was brought up. He didn't do it, believe me.
At one point, you were playing detective. You had a suspect in mind, Richard Sr.
I was convinced.
What was Isabel and Richard Sr.'s relationship, could you tell?
Well, there's some times that she'd made remarks about him that he was worthless. I don't know why I keep him around. He doesn't do nothing. He's a drunk. There was at one time, she walked around with a cast on her arm.
Isabel did?
Yes. Well, I asked her, well, what happened? And she goes, it was an accident. I'd rather not talk about it. The asshole doesn't live here now. So apparently something happened between those two, and he didn't. We didn't see him for at least a month.
Mark strongly believes that Richard Cordell Sr. is who killed Isabel, and he tried to put to rest that Greg Weller would have done it, but we need more proof than just Mark Carter saying that. You know how yesterday we came up with the new name of Greg Weller? Mm-hmm. After talking to Tammy, Mark Carter's ex. This letter is dated February the 1st, 1988, and it's to Mark Carter when he's in prison from your best friend, Greg. Hi, what's up? What do you think about your neighbor getting killed? Someone got to her before I did. I think the husband did it, in all caps. I hope this helps your case. And this is signed Greg. Greg's letter seems like he was not involved, but you never know. If Greg Weller would have killed for Mark, one of Mark's other friends might have been willing to do it also. We need to figure out whether or not the person who killed Isabel was at all familiar with that house or completely unfamiliar with that house. We need to go to the crime scene to see if the evidence points one way or the other. We need to figure out once and for all if a stranger or intruder is the one that killed Isabel. And the only way to do that is to visit the crime scene.
This is the dining room.
Yes.
The Cordell residence is vacant. And although there's no furniture in it, and it's not quite like it was in 1988, still gives me a great visual of what that crime scene looked like.
Here, the couch was here under the window.
Right.
Her head on this side, her feet on this side. Chair here, blocking a door. Coffee table in the middle, another couch on that side.
Right. Now that I'm here, seeing the whole layout and totally understanding how close everything is, the idea of this being an actual intruder is not gaining any points with me.
If our killer is not Richard and it's somebody from the neighborhood, he's going to have to walk up this driveway, go through that outside garage door, come through this garage door into the house, and go straight over to the living room to the couch.
That he can't see in and that he's probably never been in here
before. That's just pushing it.
We've got 2 kids sleeping upstairs. We've got Dad and another child sleeping downstairs right next to the living room, and no one hears anything. There's actually quite a few noises that were going on at the time. There's a dog in the backyard that would bark at anything. You've got the door that is extremely loud.
Front door of the residence.
And that's close to her.
I mean, if the bedroom's right there and they're sleeping, their 12-year-old never heard this loud, loud door. They're literally a wall away. They never heard any of this either. If truly someone entered in through that door with the noise it would make, I don't know how that would not wake up somebody sleeping on the couch in the living room, and possibly even wake up the people sleeping in the bedroom right next door. This axe, you guys, is very approximate to the size that one was. With a weapon like this, you guys, one good hit that could have just shattered that skull right there. The blood spatter, if you look at it, though, is going in all directions. If you look at the comforter, it is all over the front of the comforter there. We also know it's going back this direction.
And there's not much cast off.
The person's just going like this. Okay, they're not swinging that all the way back to get that cast off that you see up on ceilings, going up on walls.
So would that suggest a 14-year-old who isn't going to be as
forceful? This is not a hard thing to do. I mean, Boy Scouts use them all the time, little hatchets. They're easy to handle.
But the other weird unknown is still, why is that blood drop in the bathroom sink?
The blood in the sink makes absolutely no sense for an outsider.
There were several blood drops discovered at the crime scene. The trail of blood from where Isabel was killed out to where the hatchet was placed up against a tree in the front yard. And even more interesting, there was a blood drop in a sink in a bathroom also inside the house.
If it's somebody from the outside, they walk into the room, they commit this murder, and then instead of going straight back to the exit,
they go wash their hands.
They go wash their hands.
Doesn't make a bit of sense.
And the biggest issue is, if it was some stranger and you brought this, why are you gonna set it by the tree out there?
Because of the loud noises in that house, and also because of the blood drop in a sink, we've all debunked the idea that the person who did this is a complete stranger to that house. When you actually use the hatchet and you see how light and easy it is to manipulate, it's possible that Richie Jr. could have been the one to use it, especially when you find it lying up against a tree right outside the front door of the house.
Here it is, Yolanda.
Oh, boy. The DNA results are back. Everybody is sitting on pins and needles.
The moment of truth.
It's been 25 years since Isabel was murdered. We're hoping that this will bring us some answers. On the handle of the hatchet, they have a profile, but it's very small and it's inconclusive. On the blade part, it does come back to Isabel. At least her blood is on the blade. So we do know we have the right weapon, and you're never going to be challenged with that in court. Now, what we have left is our blood in the sink.
The blood in the sink is pretty crucial. If that is Isabel's blood, that tells us that our killer went to the sink to wash their hands, and that would seem to indicate that it had to be somebody who lived inside the house.
This one has absolutely no DNA at all in. So now I'm wondering if maybe the presumptive test wasn't working properly. But whatever was in that sink, there's absolutely no DNA profile, not even a smidgen, not even an inconclusive. In 1988, it was presumptively tested on scene with positive results. Well, now after being sent to the lab, we now know it is not blood. Is it nail polish? I don't know. Whatever it was, it's not blood, and it's not going to help us now.
So that whole theory about a stranger would never go to the bathroom, we need to throw it out.
Right.
That blood drop in the sink and the DNA on the murder weapon that we thought might come back didn't happen. But we still have thrown out the idea that this killer is a foreigner to the house. So we don't think that Mark Carter or anybody associated with Mark Carter, including Greg Weller, had anything to do with what happened to Isabel. Are we all thinking that we can eliminate Mark Carter and Greg Weller?
Yes,
okay?
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Mark's buddy Greg said that somebody beat him to murdering Isabel, and we're all thinking that person is either Richard Sr. or Richard Jr. It's time to track down Richard Jr. He was only 14 when all this happened. So if we can find him, maybe there's a whole lot more about that night that he knows than he's ever told anybody.
Deputy Overmar and Richie Hortle Jr. 14 years old, are you, Richie?
Yes.
Richie, tell us what you did last night.
I came home, fixed me something to eat, and then fell asleep.
Dad was sleeping at this time, right?
I don't know. I didn't see him.
You never saw your dad then at all?
No.
Richie, is there something you're not telling us?
I promise. I don't know nothing.
No, I'm just asking you.
I swear my heart on it. I swear to God.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay. Hi.
How are you?
Looking for Richard?
How are you?
Good.
Orlando Martinez. Sheriff's office has basically brought in some extra manpower, and we're looking at cold cases.
Oh, my mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
We're reopening the homicide case.
Okay.
What we want to do, we really want to solve this.
No, I don't.
Right.
I wish you would.
And
This has been bothering him for a long
we
time.
we need your
I mean,
help.
Yeah.
Richie Jr. has agreed to come in for questioning. You know, one theory is that he might have killed his mother because he was so mad at her and humiliated from her exposing Mark Carter for molesting him.
Okay.
Before that, we have heard that maybe he and his mom had a strange relationship also.
Her and Richie have many arguments?
All the time.
Over what?
Anything.
Did you got a temper?
got a mouth.
Does he listen to her?
Not very often.
January 24th, 1988, when your mom was murdered inside the house. Tell me what happened that day.
My dad comes upstairs screaming and hollering, and it was loud.
What was he yelling?
Told us to stay upstairs.
Okay, so stay upstairs, and
And then he went downstairs, and that was it. So my sister Sherry come, got us, and they hid a sheet over the living room, and I still didn't know what was going on.
What happens next?
Then we lived with Sherry.
What about your father?
He might have stayed at my grandma's.
Was there a reason for that?
I don't know.
Did you think it was kind of odd, or?
Yeah, but I thought different things all the time. When I got raped by that guy, Mark Carter, it was my mom that took me to everything, to the doctor, to the police. So it was always her that took me places. My dad didn't.
He didn't?
No.
Why didn't he?
I don't know.
Did you kill your mother because she sent Mark Carter to jail?
No.
Did you kill your mother?
No.
Do you know if your father killed your mother?
I don't know who did it. First, I thought Mark did it. Then I got thinking about it. He was in jail.
We checked. He was
so
in
then
jail.
I was like, he hired somebody. Swear on the Bible, I do not know who did it to my mother.
I think that you have suspicions, but you're sticking your head in the sand because you don't want to know.
It's not that I don't want to know. There is times I thought my dad did it. But I don't know. If it's my dad, I hope he pays for it.
It's okay.
How do you feel about whether or not Richie's the one who killed Isabel?
It seems like he never grew up. He's still that child. He's still that 14-year-old kid that he got stuck when his mother passed away and his dad abandoned him.
I think he loved his mom very much. I think he knew his dad was never there for them, never. And you can still see it in how he talks about it today. The problem is he lost the one and only person that he had in his life. Couldn't bring her back. The only thing that's left is still your blood, whether you like him or dislike him. And I think that's where he's at with the whole thing.
You don't think he's the killer then?
I don't.
After talking to Richie Jr., we're all very confident that he didn't kill his mother. He's just another victim in this case. So we're down to one suspect, the man who had the means and the motive and the most benefit for wanting Isabel Cordell dead, Richard Cordell Sr.
I think we all kind of believe that he's probably the one. It's just a matter of what do we do next to get him to talk about it.
I think that tool of the polygraph might set him right where we want him.
Right.
Richard told us he would only come in again if we'd give him a polygraph.
I'm telling you the truth. I took a lie detector test. I'll take another one.
So you like the idea of schedule a polygraph and run at him again?
Right, because I don't care about the polygraph. I care about talking to him again.
I'm not a big believer in polygraphs, but if it's a tool that will get Richard Cordell to come down here again and let us talk to him, hey, let's give it a shot. We need to try throwing him off guard. We need to try intimidating him. And in order to do that, we need the best interrogator that I know. How do you feel about jumping on a plane to Ohio? Johnny Bonds is an experienced homicide investigator, and he's the best interviewer, interrogator that I've ever seen.
Hey, Orlando. Good seeing you again, man.
Good morning. Sean O'Connell.
Johnny Bonds, Sean.
Nice to meet you, Johnny.
You know, he's got a different technique, he's got a different method, he's got a different approach. He's the best, so we're gonna let him have a shot at it.
Johnny Bonds. You're Richard. Anyone takes a polygraph exam, they're going to be nervous. Richard just finished his polygraph. He has no idea whether he failed or passed. I think I can use that to my advantage.
Let me ask you something.
Ask me.
Wouldn't somebody that was guilty have a lawyer? I've cooperated. I've took
You sure have.
polygraphs.
I'm
I went
amazed.
to the interview.
I'm actually surprised that you showed up today for the polygraph test. Only other people that might have possibly had a motive would have been the friends and family of Mark Carter. They've all been questioned. They've all been alibied or eliminated. There's none of their DNA. But other than them and you, there are only two people that had a motive. And I want you to think about
What motive would I
the
have?
motive you had was a miserable marriage. You lived in, for lack of a better description, a dump. You had 3 kids, I'm sorry to tell you, that have not turned out well.
That might get him.
You married a woman that was 13 years older than you?
14.
14 years older than you. Here you are in your mid-30s. And she's almost 50 years old.
Good point.
Did you ever think you made a big mistake when you married her?
Like I told you, I was comfortable.
Did you ever hit Isabel?
Slapped her once.
What was it about? You remember?
No.
Were you drunk?
No, I don't remember.
Were you drunk the night this happened?
I drank.
How much did you drink?
I drank 12 beers.
I didn't kill her. And nobody in the house killed her.
How can you be sure?
I did not kill her.
You didn't wake up when the killer came in. How do you know? How do you know one of the kids didn't do it? How do you know?
I know my kids.
Do you? I got the feeling you're not that close to them.
I know they couldn't kill anybody, and neither could I. Mike, free to go.
That's up to you.
It's up to you.
I'd rather go right now.
I can't make you stay
No,
here.
you're
Not
free-
under
you're free
arrest.
to go
if you want to go,
anytime.
you can go. Yeah.
I did not kill her, Johnny. I swear to God and anybody else that'll listen. And I believe the lie detector test showed that.
I know you believe that. I'm not lying about what the man told me.
we wouldn't lie to you.
You wouldn't lie to me? John told me, come over here, give me 5 minutes of your time.
If you thought I was lying to you, nothing else I tell you would make any difference. I can't make him stay. He's not in custody. I'm just going to try to keep him talking. Once he goes out the door, it's over. Your kids, you know, they may not tell you that they have doubts, but they have doubts.
I'm gonna say it one more time and I'm going.
Yeah.
I did not kill my wife, and nobody in the house killed her. You need to look somewhere else. You're looking at the wrong person.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'm not surprised.
I feel that Richard Cordell Sr. cannot explain what happened that night in a way that makes sense. How y'all feeling?
I mean, I was kind of hoping for the confession.
But the good thing is we're leaving this week, and the local guys now have new to-dos to focus on. They have new leads to check out, and most of all, they have less suspects that they need to focus on from here on out.
You know, the one thing I like about it is everything we've done, it's been brought back into light 25 years later.
25 years ago, you had multiple suspects who possibly could have done this.
Right.
Today,
You have one.
you have one.
And you're almost there.
Yeah, we are.
We're close.
Well, it was great working with y'all. Well, give me a hug, Sharon.
All right.
Yeah, I will. I will.
How you doing? I'm good. Have you talked to your brothers and sisters?
I have talked to Rich Jr. a lot.
How's he doing?
Very emotional, obviously.
We talked to over 55 people.
Wow.
The case is not quite there yet. We eliminated a lot of rumors and suspects and that whole Carter thing.
I know that everybody has their own opinion.
They do.
Sure. They do.
It's crazy. I mean, I think they all want to know what happened, but they don't want to believe. But I want you to know that all of this was worthwhile.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody is very, very happy that this is being reopened.
But they don't want to think Richard did it.
He's probably sweating bullets right now,
I
which
hope so.
good.
And I would tell you, they're not giving up, and they're way closer than they used to be.
Just because we're leaving doesn't mean anything is ceasing. It's going forward.
I know my mom's looking down right now, and I knew she was saying, don't stop, do this. I could never repay them for what they've done. They've just given hope more than anything. And I'm just so grateful for them.
Hang in there with your family and all the issues you have. I feel sorry for you. Because of all the hard work in our investigation this week, there's only one left standing. I hope that we get a call one day where they say, it's over, we did it. And we help them get to that point.